Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex coach Finn Deerhart and disability awareness consultant and cripple content creator Andrew Gurza, also a self-professed bear in a chair, which we're going to try to get as much mileage out of that as we can.
I love that.
Today we're talking about gay sex and disability. So let's get started. Himeros TV. Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv envisions a world in which all gay and bisexual men experience their sex and sexuality with joy. And we make that world a reality through hot, cock-throbbing gay erotic videos. Created by Davey Wavey, Himeros.tv takes everything that you love about porn, the models, the cum, the fucking, and combines it with authenticity, vulnerability, pleasure, and sexual exploration. Through videos co-created by a team of sex coaches and tantric instructors, all designed to give you the best sex of your life. It's time to join the gay porn revolution at Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv. It's like porn, but better. So Andrew and Finn, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
It's wonderful to see both of your faces. Before we get into it, because there is, girl, a lot to get into, here's our little check-in. How are both of you doing? How was your week?
How about you, Andrew?
Things are good. I think my week's been okay. It's been all right. I did some adulting stuff today. Went to the doctor, got some testing done. You know, all that fun stuff. But things have been good.
Good. You still alive and kicking?
Things are still happening. I'm still going for a little bit longer. So yep.
Okay. And Finn, how was your week?
My week's great. I'm adulting too. I'm working a lot trying to catch up from the holidays, and I've got a bunch of events happening. So there's a lot going into planning things right now and doing catch-ups and starting taxes and all that business.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a busy week. Well, it's been also a busy news week. Andrew, we were talking about it over iMessage earlier. And since you're here, and since I think, you have a great perspective, I would love to get your take on something that has been in the news this week, which was this whole Bryan Cranston debacle.
Oh, wow. Where would you like me to start?
Well, for people who are at home that are scratching their heads and not knowing what we're talking about, he's the guy that he was the lead actor in Breaking Bad, right? And he was cast as a quadriplegic billionaire for an upcoming film. It's a remake of a fairly recent film
from 7 years ago or something.
Yeah, which just seems a little early to be remaking something that's 7 years old. Are they that out of ideas? But anyway, so the film's called The Upside, and there was criticism that the role that Bryan Cranston is playing should have been played by a disabled actor, and then things got really interesting when Bryan Cranston responded by saying, this is a direct quote, "If I, as a straight older person, and I'm wealthy, I'm very fortunate. Does that mean I can't play a person who is not wealthy? Does that mean I can't play a homosexual?" I also feel like this is almost like a Donald Trump quote.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. No, you can't. Yes. No, you can't.
Yeah, it's like when you hear straight, white, rich, able-bodied, men throwing pity potties.
You don't know that it's what pissed me off so much about the role is when I read about it was he didn't go and speak to real disabled people. At the least, if you're gonna be playing, I'm not saying you should never play a disabled character if you're not disabled, but if you're gonna do it, at least go talk to a disabled person first to be like, what the fuck do I do now? How do I make this work? He didn't do that. He talked to people that took care of disabled people to learn about disability, and I was like, well, that's not even remotely close to being disabled.
So Andrew, what would you say if Bryan Cranston came to you as a disabled person? What would you say to him?
I would say turn the role down. Have some fucking balls and integrity and turn the role down. And people have said oh well, he's the character is quadriplegic, so he became disabled, so therefore it's okay. No, it's not right. We live in 2019 now. You could CGI somebody who's actually disabled and pretend they're disabled for 20 minutes and then make them be. There are ways to get around it that Hollywood's not looking into, and that's really annoying.
Yeah.
To Bryan's point in his comments where he said, he compared him, he said he's rich, he's all these things, but does he need to only play roles that he authentically fits? What is different about like an able-bodied person playing a disabled person versus Bryan Cranston playing a poor person, for example?
Right.
I think they're very similar. Like, I think there are similar issues because he's not poor. He's not. He may have been at one point, but he certainly is not disabled. And he doesn't have a right to see somebody who doesn't use a wheelchair. To see that all the scenes that I've seen in the movie where him in a chair, it's like, why are you? It's not a costume you get to put on. Like, it's a cultural movement. It's a really deep and rich community that you're playing with for bucks. And he said in a direct quote also, I think, that it's a business decision. Well, great. Then I'm going to take my business elsewhere and not support your movie then. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, there's also like, there's a million opportunities for able-bodied actors. And just from what I see, I don't see a lot of roles for disabled actors or for people in wheelchairs in particular. And so even though
there are roles for them out there, and there are disabled actors out there who are hustling their asses to get work, the trouble is that the industry doesn't see them as valuable unless they are showing this like sad, pitiable life, that my life's so tragic, I'm like, let's make a big drama about my life. I think Hollywood's afraid to cast disabled actors because then that trope they've lived on forever that we're sad and pitiable would go away when they realize that we're not sad and pitiable, nor are we overly courageous. We're just people trying to go through life too. And I think that it would be really smart of Bryan Cranston to have backed out of the film and said, no way, I won't. Like, his co-star in Breaking Bad was actually disabled. Like, I wonder how his co-star feels about the fact that his TV dad is taking on a role just for business. Like, it's really gross.
Yeah. And you've got to wonder from like for like the studio that's producing this, if they're looking at it from like a purely financial perspective of like, okay, Bryan Cranston is a known actor and maybe we want to work with a disabled actor, but we really know he's going to like bring in a lot of audiences. So let's do maybe what's easy and what's safer.
That's all they did here. That's all they did here. There was no forethought, and it's very clear. But what's most distressing about it is Bryan Cranston's responses of like, this is a business decision. I have this right, as if he somehow has claimed his because he's quote unquote an actor, he's therefore allowed to play a disabled role just because. And I mean, there are a few other movies that I can think of in recent years, like Margarita with a Straw and that one with Jake Gyllenhaal and the awesome person from Orphan Black they did a few months ago like, about the bombings. Like I said it on Twitter the other day. I said, if you are working with an actor who's going to be playing a disabled character, turn down the role and say, I don't want to play your friend, because you're not actually like, put some consequences to these actors just deciding to take these roles because they're going to then win an Oscar. Like, it's really nice. It's really cute that you think our disabilities are Oscar worthy for you, but it would be great if a disabled person could win the Oscar playing a disabled character. Like, that would blow my mind.
Yeah, and it also wouldn't take like a lot of effort on his part to reach out to like someone like yourself and to connect with like a consultant or someone that could give him, a more informed perspective, especially if you're going to take a role that's presumably a multi-million-dollar role, right? Yeah. To take a day out of your life and be like, hey, let me check in about this.
All he has to do is go on Twitter and type in disability, and a whole community will open up to him that is quite angry about what he's done. And I find what's most troubling about that, though, is not so much our anger, the community's anger, but the way non-disabled people are defending him and saying, well, he didn't do anything wrong. It was just an act. Like, he did do something wrong, and we need to stand up for disabled people when they're calling someone out and saying, hey, this is wrong. Here's why. We need to be backed up instead of told, oh no, he's just learning. It's okay. Like, yeah, maybe he is, but don't learn by taking a job away from someone else who could really do it way better.
Trevor Noah in particular kind of fell into that category of someone who he weighed in on the controversy and basically said, it was almost one of those like, oh well, both sides are right kind of.
Yeah, and I immediately was like, no, like I love Trevor Noah, and Trevor Noah, if you want to get down with my dick, let me know. But
well, he's a big fan of the podcast, so he's listening.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously, so yeah. But I mean, what he said was, oh no, Bryan Cranston didn't do anything wrong, but he did though, and I think he does need to be called out quite harshly, because when people called him out, he instead of backing down and saying, oh man, I must have messed up here, he doubled down on, I'm an actor. Like that's the part I have a problem with, is that you didn't check your privilege and realize you maybe made a business decision that was problematic, or after the film you haven't done anything to show that you give a fuck about how we feel. Mm-hmm. You just continued to perpetuate this idea that you're able-bodied, so therefore you're allowed to do whatever you want, which is kind of gross.
God, straight white able-bodied men who are rich have it so hard.
I mean,
they just have it so hard.
So hard being the top of the food chain.
Yeah, I wonder how he like gets through life having to drag that giant cross around with him. You know, like how does he drive his car? Like how does he do laundry carrying that thing? Yeah. Anyway, so Andrew, I guess this is a good introduction to you. You also have a podcast called Disability After Dark.
Yes.
What do you talk about on there?
It's a show that I created about 2 years ago, and it's a show specifically all about sexuality and disability. So I have conversations very similar to this with disabled people all the time about their experiences with sex, and I talk to porn stars about sex and disability. I talk to just people who are disabled and sexual and want to tell me their stories. I think those stories are really, really powerful. And then sometimes on the show I'll share like my own personal experiences. I came out a few weeks ago as hiring sex workers. I've talked to my mom on the show about my sexuality and disability. So it runs the gamut of really focusing in on sexuality and disability in a way that's fun and sexy and playful. And I think is really cool because there's not a lot of podcasts like that out there.
Yeah, it is. It does kind of fill a unique space. I was on your podcast a while back, and we filmed, I mean, at this point, several YouTube videos together, including one where we got naked together.
It was good times.
I undressed you, and
good times all around.
I love working with you because I think you're very clear in the way that you talk about sex and disability, but you also, what I really enjoy is that like you're not afraid to stir the pot, and
it's my favorite thing is to be a pot stirrer. Like I love it so much.
Yeah, and you aren't afraid to make people uncomfortable, but then you don't leave it at that. Like you also are open to engaging with folks in a conversation about that discomfort, and it's really fun. And I mean, it's something we certainly did this week with the Himeros.tv video that we're gonna chat about.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we did stir the pot. So this week's video, it's titled Facefuck Me. And it features Kenneth Conan, who is making his porn debut alongside Pierce Paris. So for purposes of disclosure, Andrew, you also worked as a consultant on this video.
Yes, I did.
And it opens with Pierce climbing onto Kenneth's wheelchair and sliding his absolutely massive cock down Kenneth's
fucking big shit.
Yeah. You know the opening scene of like 2001: A Space Odyssey? And there's just this like, do you know what I'm talking about, Finn?
No.
there's like this monolith that the scene opens with, and it goes like dun 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 dun, or there's like some like really dramatic like
60s jam.
Yeah, that like as you just look at this massive like thing. That's what I think when I see Pierce's penis.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the video again today actually to get ready for this, and I was like, oh wow, Pierce and I are actually doing an episode of my podcast. Like, I think we're recording it tomorrow, so I mean, I'm sure me talking about his dick will happen at some point.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he's happy to talk. I mean, yeah, I feel like his dick has a soundtrack. I feel like it has an epic soundtrack.
If I had a dick like that, and I mean, my dick's quite nice, but if I had a dick like that, I would be telling the world.
Oh yeah. I would never wear clothes. I would just be
like, here it is, deal with it.
I guess people might not like that in public. Anyway.
or they would.
Yeah, or they would. So there's a lot of face fucking, and obviously, as it turns out, as the name might imply. But there's also lots of kissing. There's face touching. There's very sweet like moments, neck nibbling, I would say. And then Pierce picks up Kenneth and he moves him to the couch, and then he fucks the daylights out of Kenneth's mouth.
Like, holy wow.
Yeah, he impregnates it. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Kenneth's throat is pregnant.
I was a touch jealous when I first watched this. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, ah.
Well, you've talked about this, that you want to do a scene with us, and
I want to do it so much. I don't even think you understand.
Oh no, girl, I understand. I've got the receipts.
I'm ready. Like, let's figure it out.
Why not start like an OnlyFans?
I mean, okay, here's the thing with OnlyFans. First of all, my OnlyFans would be me sitting naked in my house watching Netflix, talking to the audience about what I'm watching, because that's my life. And also, like, setting up a camera. The trouble with people have said to me, "Oh, just film your own porn, do it yourself." The trouble with being as disabled as I think some people like Kenneth and I are, is that I don't have control of I can't just pick up a camera and hit record. It's a whole process. So I'd need a team of individuals that I'd have to be like, hey, could you just come over and like set up these cameras while I like jerk off? Also, I can't jerk myself off, which is why I've resorted to working with some pretty awesome sex workers in Toronto, because I just don't have those abilities. So like the idea of producing my own porn is a great idea. The logistics, because I am so disabled, are not as easily figured out. And also, I don't know, there's something really important about putting this content out there via a studio. Like OnlyFans, I feel like every Insta-gay in like, a 5-mile radius has an OnlyFans now, which is fine, good for you. Like make that money, do whatever. But like I feel like putting that set out in studio format right now is important, because then it says the studio backs disabled bodies, they back disabled sexuality, they want to get behind that. That's why I love when you approached me a few months ago and said, can we talk about this for an hour on the phone? Like, I was like, wow, he's really taking it seriously. This is great. Like, jump in and do it without any knowledge. You came to me and said, what the fuck do I do? How do I build this?
Yeah, well, so here's the backstory. Here's what happened was Kenneth sent me an application to be a model for Himeros.tv, and he wrote, this is what his email said to me: "This is something I've always been interested in, but due to an injury when I was 18, no other company has given me a spotlight to create a platform in the industry. But I do know that your company and yourself are about body positivity and creating an industry where those things work together." So I asked him like what his ideal scene would look like what he wanted to do. And he said, my perfect scene would just be something for an audience to understand that just because I live a little bit different of a life, I'm still a very sexual person, and that it's okay to be dominant over someone in my situation, because he's very submissive, as long as there is an understanding and respect beforehand. So based on that conversation, I chatted with Kenneth a little bit deeper, and what we decided to create was a face fucking scene. And he wanted me to find like a hung dominant guy. And he said something to the effect of like, the harder he fucks my mouth, the better. So that's what we did. Yes. So a few things. Andrew, you were born with a disability. Kenneth became disabled through an injury later in life. You guys have different experiences, and I'd imagine probably different perspectives about a lot of things. So let's chat about those differences. Is there room in this world for both of you?
I think there is. I have not acquired my injury like he did, so I can't speak to that experience. I've been born with my disability from day one, so it's really become a part of my cultural understanding of who I am, and disability is first nature to me. So when I wake up in the morning, I know I'm disabled. I'm sure he does now, but before his injury, disability was probably a foreign thing to him. I'm not sure. But for me, disability is like a big part of who I am, and it's really part of my sexuality. So in some of the stuff that Kenneth said when it came out today, like I was reading some of the quotes, and he was like, "Oh, when I get out of my chair, I'm just like everybody else." And I kind of snickered, because when I get out of my chair, I realize that I'm not like everybody else, and I realize that I'm more disabled, and I realize that my body can't do certain things because of disability. And sometimes I embrace that, and sometimes I get pissed the fuck off about that. And I think the difference between individuals with congenital disabilities and those of us who acquired our disabilities is that it's just time. He's just learning how to be disabled after being disabled, what you said, 7 or 8 years. So he's learning how to do that in a world that isn't even ready for that. And then there's me, who's been disabled for 35 years, being like, hey, this is my world. I think there is room for both of us. I think when it comes to the way we navigate disability, it is different. I talked to Kenneth about the movie too, and he has like or the Bryan Cranston thing, and he has very different views on it than I do. And initially I was irked, but then I had to take a step back and be like, no, this is his experience, and that's okay. He's allowed to feel those things. And I think there is room for two of us. I think we just have to I think more disabled people, especially queer disabled people, need to be in the same room and need to sit and talk with each other about their experiences.
Well, it's like being queer or being gay. Like there's, there's people who I've been on panels where other creators have said, oh, being gay is just a small part of who I am. Yeah. And I've like almost like grabbed the microphone. They're like, oh, it's like, like I have blue eyes. It's like, you have brown eyes, you have blue eyes. Like I just happen to be gay, or I just happen to be a lesbian. And I like grab the microphone and I'm like, well, okay, except that like kids are not kicked out of their home for having blue eyes. Like, kids aren't killing themselves because they have blue eyes. Like being gay is a part of who you are, but holy shit, it's a big fucking part. And it's going to determine how you navigate laws and who you spend your life with. So, and someone that's recently out of the closet is going to have a different experience than someone that's been, out for several decades. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm curious, Finn, because Finn, you were on set when we were filming this. What was the experience for someone that's able-bodied? And you were very much aware of like what we were going to film and what the content was. How was it for you being on set and seeing everything kind of unfold?
Well, I mean, I feel like I was really interested most in helping just to hold a space and represent what Kenneth was saying that he wanted. And I felt like I was really tuning into the possibility that like I didn't want, because he had been really clear about not wanting to be fetishized in any kind of way or not to be thought of as like, oh, poor thing. He just like fucking fuck my throat, show me as the sexual animal that I want to be. And so I think I was just really holding a lot of space in that room to consider him exactly as that. And I know a couple of times I checked in during some break moments when things are shifting logistically to be like, are you? Is this? And he was like, he can go harder. He can, And so I really, because I wanted him to feel fully expressed. I wanted him to feel like I am exactly in the space that I want to be in, and being seen that way. But it's also delicate for me because I didn't really have any prior experience with somebody that was disabled. So I just, I had to like.
And I mean, that's the shit that I love so much about. I love it when guys say, I've never had an experience with disability before. I get a huge boner for that because I'm like, great. Now I get to like show you and teach you, and I get to bring you into my world, and I get to be the expert here, and I get to like when I work with a sex worker or somebody who's never fucked a disabled guy. I get super excited because I'm like, this will be your first foray. And if I get to give you like an awesome moment with somebody who's disabled, it'll change your whole view on everything. Yeah. So I get really excited when I hear things like, oh, I've never had experience like that before. Great. So I'm so happy that Kenneth could, give you that experience and help bring that to form. Because now when somebody says to you like, hey, have you worked with a disabled guy? You can say, yeah, I've done blah, blah, I did this. I helped a guy get facefucked. Like, yeah. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I should say, what were you gonna say, Davey?
Well, I was gonna say, when we were kind of discussing the scene and what I got from Kenneth was like what Finn was saying. Like, I want to be seen as a sexual human being. Like, I want to be seen as desirable, of worthy of touch, of worthy of affection. Just which is the same desire that that we all have. And I mean, very rarely when we film a scene am I, because I'm producing the content and I'm thinking about like when lunch is going to arrive or who needs to be in the bathroom douching for the next scene. And like, I'm just focused on keeping the train going. It's very rare that I get caught up in a scene and like what the models are feeling and the connection. But I think as Finn pointed out, I didn't even realize I was doing this, but Finn like looked over and you know how like when a stage mom is like their kid is like performing and they're like mouthing the words and like doing the thing. And this is horrible for a podcast because people can't see this, but like I was I was basically doing like one of these of like
ghost sucking is what I call that.
My mouth was like open
like a fish.
Yeah, so I mean if Kenneth like wanted to have that like it certainly well girl, it worked for me.
I mean, of all the ones that we filmed, I feel like I know that this word is an odd word to use, but I felt like there was like a holiness in the room whenever that was finished, because it was intense on multiple levels for everybody involved in some kind of way, people disclosing what came up for them. And
my disability brain just cringed at that word, but I get it. But I just like, oh no, why?
It was like holiness in the sense that like people really tuned in emotionally in a way that was different from the other scenes that was involved in, and it was just like people's hearts were really open. I felt like, and I really appreciated every bit of that moment.
And I think that's important. But what that also speaks to, I think when people say, "Oh, I saw a disabled person with my heart open," like I get it, and thank you for sharing that. But again, my disability brain went, "What? Like what?" I think
what's my ex-minister, Andrew.
I think what's happening there is like we're realizing we're all a little bit ableist. We're realizing we're all a little bit uncomfortable around disability, and that's why people get so overwhelmed. Not because I don't think because they mean to be ableist, but they're realizing that they've never considered disability like this before.
Exactly.
Why that makes me so uncomfortable? Why like when people do that, and I respect why you did it, and I get it. But why it makes me like cringe is because it's like this is my deal from day one. Like it's super frustrating to like, and again, I love the video, I love the content, but people have already been like, wow, Kenneth is so brave for like coming out there and doing this. I mean, in a way, yes, because it's brave to always go on film and film yourself doing that shit. But also, like, dude just want to get face fucked, and that's what we did. Don't turn into this like giant thing when it was a hot scene with a disabled guy. Like, it's a tough rope to walk, because on one hand it is a huge achievement in like porn, because here's a disabled actor owning that, and we should celebrate that. But also at the same time, can we not just like, he got face fucked and that's what he wanted? Great.
I hear that. There's one perspective that I'm wondering about too, in reference to that, is maybe it could be a huge thing for him. I don't really know where he is. He's not here to talk about that, but in his own acceptance process too. Because he had alluded to that, and what you're saying is because we're all in these different places in our development and just where he is in his life, like that might have been something for him that was huge in reference to where he was. I don't really know.
I'm sure it was. I'm really sure it was. And I was saying to Davey earlier on iMessage, I was like, just, let's talk about the comments that people were throwing, because I looked at the YouTube comments and people were immediately quick to be like, wow, so brave, or they were praising Davey and like not talking about Kenneth. And I was like, wait, can we talk about the dude in the wheelchair who like did the thing and who without emailing Davey was the one who was like, I want to do this. He's the one that deserves some, like, Davey, you're awesome, deserve all the praise too. But Kenneth, like, certainly deserves some praise outside of, wow, you're so brave. Like, he also sucked the dick on camera for the first time. Like,
that's right. That's brave. To me, that's brave in and of itself, just that act.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, we chatted beforehand, before the scene was even filmed, and I took notes on some of your advice, and the first thing you said was like, don't make inspiration porn. That like in doing the scene, you need to make sure you focus on the pleasure that like both guys are getting, that it's not just like Pierce doing a pity fuck, but that like that it's fun for Pierce, and it genuinely was, and to give like that equal screen time. so we made sure in filming it that we showed, that kind of, we gave equal screen time to both of the guys' pleasure. And you also said, like, and what you're saying now is like, don't make it about like the wheelchair or a guy in a wheelchair. Just make a hot video with two guys who have this like really great connection. And I separately filmed a YouTube video with Kenneth, kind of interviewing him and why he wanted to do this. And you felt pretty strongly about like keeping those separate, like let the erotic video stand on its own. And then if people need additional context, then, later on they can watch this interview, but just like to let it sit with them. Why did you suggest that?
I mean, I just think that I said to you when we were talking about it, I was like, just put it out first. Put the video out first and see what, like, let people sit in their shock and awe, let them be uncomfortable, but let it stand by itself. Because I think if we give people too much context, like, hi, my name's Andrew and I want to film this porn because I'm disabled, your representation is important. If I give you 3 minutes of a talking head about why I want to suck this guy's dick, you're not gonna pay attention to it so much as if all of a sudden the scene's happening and oh my goodness, there's a disabled guy, like, wow. And I love that that's how the scene turned out. Now, I am wondering, when you filmed, did Kenneth want to be clothed? Was he, like, did he just literally want to be face fucked and that was the jam? Because
so after the fact, he changed his mind about that he wished that we had done it where he wasn't clothed. And, there's I think kind of certain considerations and like catheters that are involved and things that I think.
But I think, and I hear you, but I think for a scene to show disability in real life, like if it were me, if I were in that situation, which I will be soon, we should figure that out. If I were in that situation, like I would want Pierce to take off my shirt. I'd want him to take off my pants. I'd want those things that made me disabled to show. And maybe that's the difference between Kenneth and I again. But I think showing that stuff, and this is something that I've kind of been struggling with for the last couple of years and finally coming to terms with. Showing that stuff is really important to me. So talking about like I told this to you when we got naked in my house. Like I have spindly legs. My body doesn't look a certain way. I can't take my shirt off. Like there are things that I require. And I remember when you had to do it, you were like, okay, what do I do? Like, how do we do this? And I walked you through. Seeing that in a scene would also be really powerful because that's the reality of disabled life. When I fuck somebody, before we do anything, the first 5 minutes is me showing them how to get off the shirt, showing them how to get off my pants, talking about my lift. Like, these are real conversations, and I know that he wanted a very specific thing, and I get that, but I think for future goings of porn and disability, especially in the gay space, show that stuff. Show, the able-bodied partner being uncomfortable asking these questions, because that's real life.
Yeah, we were ready to go there. I mean, for us, it's making sure that the models are comfortable with what we're filming, and if he was ready to take it there, we were. And I had a conversation with Daniel Cardone, who is the director, that like in the event that there is nudity, like I don't want to like kind of cut around, for example, the catheter, that I want to show it because this is a part of his life and it's a part of his sexuality, and that we weren't gonna like create something that was very like sugar coated or like neutered. But I also feel like Kenneth is probably gonna want to do another video, so I think there's
this is his first video. I think his may have just been kind of putting his toe in and like feeling it out. And
I mean, I don't blame him. Like, hey, like if Pierce Paris was there and we were doing things, I probably would forget to say to get my clothes too. Like I wouldn't be focusing on my clothes either. I'd be like, your dick is there, gotta do the thing.
Yeah. Can we just take a moment actually just to like talk about me holding the chair that Pierce is standing on? So how difficult that was.
Finn, I thought you were gonna say, can we just take a moment to like really hold space for like Kenneth? No, it's for you for you holding this chair. Who cares about Kenneth's throw and like how he couldn't speak for 3 days afterwards? And,
is that true?
He couldn't really speak for 3 days afterwards.
I don't believe that.
No, it's not true, but
he was chatting up a storm afterwards.
yeah. Yeah, but that's true, Finn. You were holding the things you don't see.
Wow, the magic of porn.
So here's your minute, Finn.
I always appreciate Kenneth's posts on social media too.
Do you follow him?
I do. He actually did the how hard did age hit you challenge. It's amazing. On Facebook.
Yeah, that's cool. I have to see how we've talked a little bit since the video came out, because there's been quite a few news articles that have come out, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything is sitting with him and what the experience has been like for him.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm really curious to know about what his process is like now after that's out. It seems like it could be a big process.
Pretty big step. It's a big step to be like a literal unknown and then like, hey, look, I did a scene. Here it is.
Huh.
So Andrew, I haven't really asked you this yet, but since you've seen the video, it's out. What do you think? What's your feedback?
I loved it for the fact that there was a disabled person owning their stuff, and now that I know a bit of the backstory, I like it even more because you gave him exactly what he wanted, and I think that's really important that you helped facilitate. Again, not making you the savior or anything, because I want to make clear you're awesome, but he was the one sucking the dick.
I am the able-bodied Jesus, though.
I mean. Where do I start with that? I think it was a great step forward. I'm a little bit jealous.
Yep.
But I think I don't think it would have done so well in a mainstream studio. By mainstream I mean one of the big ones. I'm not going to name who they are, but you know what I'm talking about. A bigger mainstream studio, because you wanted to focus on pleasure, and so you helped to facilitate something really powerful. But I am concerned with the comments and the way people are rushing to be like, wow, it's so much inspiration. Like, okay, let's be careful. You can be proud of the scene, but just be mindful of the words you use when you talk about it, because the scene is inspirational because he's sucking a huge dick, not just because he's disabled and sucking a huge dick. It's because he was like, I want to do this, I own this. It's not like you gave him this because you felt sorry for him. He asked for it, and I think that's an important part of the narrative people have to remember. He took agency to be like, I want to suck this dick, please make this happen to me. It was like, make a wish for a disabled dude. That would be my dream. So
yeah. So if you guys do want to see some of these comments, the YouTube video that I posted with Kenneth being interviewed, it's called it's got a really clickbaity thumbnail, and the title is "Paralyzed Man Becomes Sexy Gay Porn Star." So people are definitely clicking it. The comments are interesting, and Andrew said there is kind of a lot of the there's only one comment that I had to delete, which we won't give life to on here, but those comments about it being inspirational, or that I'm awesome for creating this, to me, they kind of almost felt like it's almost like how almost the relationship that some straight girls have with gay guys, being like, oh no, I want a gay best friend, we'll go shopping together and have at least they're not it comes from a place where their heart is good, but
they're trying so hard, and I get it, and I totally understand. But the trouble is that the trouble with those comments for me is that they don't give him enough credit for they go even when you and I did stuff together, they would immediately go to, wow, Davey Wavey, thanks so much for putting it out there, and yeah, thank you, and you're awesome. But what they forget is that we approached each other and said, let's work together. It wasn't you flew in on your white horse and were like, Andrew, I want to save you from the sadness of your disabled life and make this film and make this YouTube content with you because blah. You were like, oh, you want to do this? Cool, let's do it together. So there was a collaborative effort, and I think people tend to forget that because they are so used to seeing able-bodied people give disabled people something out of charity. So that's why when I read those comments, I was initially concerned, because you're not being charitable. You were like, I want to do this for you because I value what you're saying, and let me help you do that.
Yeah, I think they what they want to do is they want to say something positive, like, and they don't have like the language or the experience to know like how to express that. So they kind of default to this like, oh, that's so inspiring, or he's so brave. It's conversations like these that we're having now that I think can give people a little bit more context and maybe some language to better express what they're feeling. It's also going to be interesting to see what happens now that this video is starting to, like make the rounds on the internet and appear in other places and on other blogs. I think I have a really wonderful audience full of like very kind, sweet people. And I know the rest of the internet isn't necessarily like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, as a video, if it gets posted on QueerT and some of the other gay sites, to see what those conversations look like.
And I am so ready for like some of the basic bitches to write some of their I'm ready for it. It makes me giggle when you see people so ignorant who just want to be derogatory and don't realize that like this is how dare you, like, ew. And you're going to be such an asshole, you're going to put that in the comment section? Like, fuck right up.
Yeah.
I also want to see how the other blogs treat how they talk about it. And I think what I even noticed in like some of the ones that it came up to today, they don't have the language for it. So the people that are writing these pieces about it are like, oh wow, it's so amazing. And they're perpetuating the same problematic ideas. What they should do is reach out to a disabled consultant, hi, me. Or someone like me, and say, hey, this video just popped up on my desk. Would you want to write a piece about why it's important? Would you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, that's kind of like responsible journalism. I mean, it's
which is like a fairy tale in 2019.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm going to do a video about, a trans person or about a topic that is a community of which like I'm not necessarily a part, like, I mean, this is why I reached out to you, like
and because I said to you about 5 minutes after you called us, like, thank you so much for reaching out, because it shows that you understood you did not have the knowledge for this, but I know someone who does. Let me, and not only that, you also made sure that I was compensated for that, which I think is another big part of that discussion, because so many people say, oh, can you give me your advice for free? And it's like, well, no, because mama gotta eat. I gotta eat too. So, so I think like so many people have said to me, "Can you come and be an like I give talks and stuff?" And people have said to me like, "Can you come do a talk for free? Can you do it for like way less than what you're worth?" And it's like, when I go into your job and ask you to like, and I said to you if you can't, like, I respect your work and I'll do it anyway because I respect you. But to know that you were like, no, I'm gonna put money down because I value what you're saying. That's why I enjoyed that call so much, because I knew you valued what I was saying enough to like take an hour with me and say like, here's what the client wants. How do we make this work? And you genuinely just said, I don't know. Tell me. And so it was nice to be able to use all my thoughts and talk it through with you, to know you would create something eventually that would make people think. And it was a kind of a love letter to that client, saying to Kenneth, saying, look, you can be sexual after an injury, and this is for you to. This is proof that you can suck a big dick, and it's awesome. Like, I think like those parts of the video where he's just going to town on Pierce's dick were kind of awesome, because you don't ever see that. You don't ever see a disabled person just genuinely enjoying sex, and that's what this scene really showed.
Well, I can't wrap it up any better than that. We do have some questions to get to. And if you guys at home have any questions, please send them to Davey at daveywavey.tv. It's DAVEY. Question number 1. All right. So I have to say, I really enjoy Himeros Live. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and yours is one of the few queer ones hosted by a white person that doesn't devolve into a weird, bad racist time for me. So thank you for making a queer podcast that feels safe and inclusive for people of color. I would like to mention that I'm a 28-year-old non-binary person with a penis who uses they, them pronouns. So in the last few years, I've discovered a rather specific voyeuristic thing that turns me on a whole lot. spontaneously coming across two people engaging in a sexual act, usually oral. And the three things that make it even better for me are: one, they don't know that I'm there; two, if I know them; three, and if by societal conventions, I know they shouldn't be engaging in that sex act, i.e., we're in public, or one or both of them are straight or married or monogamous. So now the issue I have is this: if two people are engaged in sex, but they don't know that I can see them, that feels unethical because of lack of consent. Do you think there's a scenario in which I could orchestrate this for myself, or do I just forget about this and be a more traditional ethical voyeur and be in the room when it happens? That's a great question. So who wants to take a first stab? Finn, have you been mulling this over? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it kind of depends on where this person is in watching, because, I think I can't remember the actual law aspect, but if you're standing in the street and somebody's got their windows open having sex, it's not a violation of consent to even. There's a law, and I don't remember exactly how many feet away you can be, but you can actually photograph if it's like visible to the public. But if you're in their yard and you climbed over a fence to watch, that's different, So then it is a violation because there's trespassing involved. I don't really know the specifics on that. I think it's probably state by state. But I'd say that sounds fun, and I can relate to that, and especially if they're in a car or that, I don't really see that's a violation. Go ahead.
So I think to tease it out, though, there could be a difference between what's ethical and what's legal. And I think for me, what would if there's a reasonable expectation of privacy for those folks, then I think you're crossing a line. But if they're in like the woods, or they're at a park, or in the dunes in Provincetown, there isn't in those public places a reasonable expectation of privacy. If they're in their bedroom and you have to climb up a fire escape to stick your head in the window, it's a little bit of a kind of a gray line. But I think that the reasonable expectation of privacy is like where I would draw the line. And it's hard, I think, to find. So I also enjoy voyeurism, and it's hard to figure out an ethical way to indulge. Like, I really enjoy those videos on like Pornhub of like people peeing in urinals and stuff, and a lot of those. I think a lot of those are probably staged, but then, some of them are authentically set up and capturing people who didn't give consent. And those are not, that's not good to be feeding yourself.
No.
Do you have any thoughts, Andrew?
I would disagree with that. I pretty much was going to parrot what you said. So no.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Yeah. If someone's in public, like I said, I think we said something similar, really, is that if someone's in their car, it's like you really kind of forfeit a reasonable expectation of privacy if you're having sex in your car in a parking garage, which I did last week.
And I watched.
Yeah. And I'm sure other people
might watch.
You're jealous.
All right. So question number 2. I have a really hard time staying hard during sex, and I have never ejaculated during sex. I'm a sexual assault survivor, so I think it could be related to trauma. Personally, this doesn't bother me because I'm a submissive bottom who is all about giving pleasure to my partner, but it has really bothered a lot of my partners that I can only ejaculate when they're not there. They take it as a personal insult that I can't and won't come in front of them. I'm not sure what to do about this. Any advice is welcome.
I guess I can speak to that a little bit. I have had trouble coming with my sexual partners over the last little while, and I work with some of the sexiest escorts in Toronto to get my needs met. So when the hottest dude in Toronto's on top of you, wanting you to come and you can't, it's super annoying. So I know what that's like. You're like, I just want to get off because the scene requires me to do that right now, and I can't. Shit. But what I'm learning is that if I just relax and enjoy myself, I don't really care if I come or not, because fuck, I got to spend time with the hot dude on top of me, okay. And so I didn't get the money shot, but we're not filming a porn usually. We're not filming an OnlyFans. We're just messing around. So for me as a disabled person, the need to come was really powerful for a couple of years there, and it still sometimes my own ableism is like, oh my God, I gotta come. I have to come to prove to this guy that I'm just like him and I can perform just like he does. And to prove my worth as a sexual being, I have to jizz all over your face. But what I'm learning is that I don't have to. And a couple of weeks ago, I was with a worker, and he made me come just spontaneously, and it was really fun because neither of us expected that. I mean, we did expect we were having sex, so yeah, there was some expectation, but there was no pressure. So I think for this person, just try to take the pressure of yourself. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't mean you didn't have a good time, and it doesn't mean your sex is not valid if you didn't come. It just means it might happen in different ways.
Yeah. And I think there's a, like you said, the scene requires it, right? That there's this like conditioning that happens to us by watching porn where we think we have this expectation that like every sexual experience needs to end in a cum shot. And the best way to ensure that you won't come is to focus and obsess on trying to come. And the best way to ensure that you won't get hard is to like stress and become anxious about whether or not you're going to become hard. So yeah, Andrew, I think your advice is on point, to really focus on the pleasure and the connection, and to communicate with your partner that like for you, because you have to recognize that person has also seen the same porn that you have and might have a certain expectation, but it's an opportunity to have a conversation about like what, like what feels good, what sex means for you, why like a cum shot isn't the ultimate measure. Finn, I know you wanted to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
5 different ways that in that session that weren't physical. Maybe you're like emotionally really turned on. Like maybe we need to broaden the idea of what coming means. Yeah, it's supposed to be ejaculation, but maybe we should talk about like what emotionally got you off in this scene. Like what do you just enjoy? And I think like for your next scene with a disabled person, like maybe I don't know. I'm picturing like, do a scene where neither person comes, and we talk about that as part of the scene, like why there was no cum shot and how the scene can still be erotic and hot without the need for I just came all over you. Like okay, that's hot, but if you didn't, you're still valid.
Right. Yeah, I second that, and I also feel like one, finding some partners that are more empathetically attuned to you, so that it's not an issue at all. Just by default, there's like an understanding of who you are without this expectation, and then also if and when you're ready to go back into some of the stuff around sexual assault, if you found just a therapist that specializes in trauma, it's definitely something that if you wanted to work on, has really positive outcomes. And I've personally had experience with people that have reversed some of those interactions in their bodies, and the body can be miraculous sometimes with the way it like responds to trauma therapy.
Awesome. So question number 3 is, I really enjoyed the video that you posted with Pierce and Kenneth. I think Kenneth is really cute, but I wouldn't know what to say or do to let him know that I'm interested. I feel like I might say something stupid or offend him. Do you think Kenneth or anyone else has any advice for hitting on a guy that's disabled? I know what you said to me, Andrew.
What did I say to you?
You said, tell him you think he's cute. I can hear your voice as I'm like reading that question. You're like, tell him you think he's fucking hot.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did. No, but it's true. It's true though. Like, and I think to answer your question, person, I think you will say something. You probably will say something offensive. You probably will. You're probably gonna swallow your foot and say something completely untoward and be uncomfortable, be awkward. But own that and just say some things that make you feel weird. You're gonna not know what to do, and that's okay. Own that and go up to the person and say like, "Hey, my name is blah, and I noticed you're disabled," or you mentioned you have an invisible disability, because some people can be disabled and you can't see it. So you could say like, "I noticed that you either are visibly disabled or have invisible disabilities, and you brought those up. I think you're kind of hot, and I want to spend some time with you, and I want to get naked and fuck around, but I want to know what to do, and I want to learn what's comfortable for you," and just own the fact that you don't know. I think that's one of the sexiest things people can do, instead of being like, oh yeah, your disability is no problem, doesn't bother me in the least. Because when people start doing that, when they start over exaggerating how fine they are with something, it means they're not fine with it in the least. So a lot of guys will say like, oh yeah, sure, no, your disability is totally cool. And yeah, getting you out of your chair and undressing you, oh yeah, that's no problem. And then when they get here and it's time to really do that thing, they're all like, I'm not sure how, I don't know what to do. They get all scared. When if they just said to me at the beginning, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I want to learn. And I want to learn while we have sex and get naked or get to know each other. That's way more honest and vulnerable than you pretending like it's fine.
It's like when people say like, I don't see color. Like, come on.
It's like, well, shit, I do. Like, all right.
And they can also listen to your podcast. Like that's a great place to start and to get some of the language that they need and to give them a little bit more context and experience.
Yeah, and I would love people to listen to my shit. So like shamelessly plug it or what, or how would you do this?
Yeah, well, next week we're talking about a video titled Sexual Healing. Andrew, you won't be here next week, but where can people find you?
They can find me they can download my podcast on Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Disability After Dark. They can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Gurza. They can go to my website, andrewgurza.com, and hire me to do the things. Yeah.
And Finn, where can people find you?
FinnDeerhart.com, FinnDeerhart.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for being here. Thank you to everyone at home for listening. And as always, more to come.